The clerk looked at me like she had just personally ruined my future, and honestly, after the day Lauren and I had been through, I almost respected the commitment. "I'm really sorry," she said, tapping at her keyboard with both hands. "It looks like there was a system error." Lauren stood beside me in the Charleston Hotel lobby with her tote bag sliding off one shoulder. Her hair slightly bent from the airplane headrest, and the calm face she used when she was either handling a problem or causing one. I should have noticed that part sooner. "What kind of system error?" I asked. The clerk gave the screen another worried look. Behind us, a family in matching pastel shirts dragged luggage across the tile, and somewhere near the elevators a toddler was having a full emotional breakdown over a granola bar. "The reservation only held one room," the clerk said, "and that room has one king bed." I turned my head slowly toward Lauren. She blinked once. "Okay, that was it. Not, wait, what? Not, that's impossible." Not even the fake little customer service laugh people use when they're trying not to lose their minds in public. "Just okay." I stared at her. "Okay?" Lauren looked at me like I was the one being difficult. "Andrew, we've been awake since 4:30. That doesn't answer my question." The clerk jumped in before we could start one of our public arguments, which always sounded like a married couple fighting about where they parked the car, except we were not married and definitely not a couple. "I wish I could move you," she said, "but we're fully booked tonight. There's a wedding party on floors 4 and 5, and a medical conference took most of the rest." Lauren nodded like this was unfortunate but survivable. I was still stuck on the main detail. "I thought you booked 2 queens." "I did," she said. The clerk glanced at the screen again. "The notes say 1 king preferred." Lauren's face did not move much, but her hand tightened on the strap of her tote bag. "I saw that. I just didn't know what to do with it yet." "There must have been a mix-up," Lauren said very evenly. The clerk handed over the key cards with the face of someone who wanted us to take our personal tension far away from her desk. "I'm sorry again. Breakfast starts at 7, and your room is on the 8th floor." I took the cards because Lauren didn't. We walked toward the elevators without speaking for about 10 seconds, which for us was basically a public emergency. Lauren and I had been best friends for almost 7 years. We could talk through traffic, bad coffee, family drama, flat tires, and airport delays. Silence between us usually meant one of 2 things. One of us was very tired, or one of us was hiding something. At the elevator, I finally said, "I was really hoping for separate rooms and moral clarity." Lauren pressed the up button. "You have neither. Adapt." "That's very easy for you to say. You looked weirdly peaceful back there." "I looked exhausted." "You looked like a woman accepting fate." "I am accepting that I need a shower and sleep." The elevator doors opened, and we stepped inside with an older man who smelled like expensive cologne and shrimp. He looked at our bags, then at us, then at the glowing number above the doors like he had walked into the middle of a conversation he should not hear. Lauren stared straight ahead. I stared at her reflection in the elevator doors. This was how it always went with us. Something got awkward, and we joked until the awkward thing gave up and left. It had worked for years. We met at a 4th of July party when I was 23 and making a complete disaster of the grill. I had burgers lined up like I was trying to punish them. Lauren walked over, took the tongs from my hand, and said, "You're flipping these like they insulted your family." That was Lauren from the beginning. Direct, funny, hard to embarrass. Somehow easy to trust before I had earned any reason to trust her. After that, she just became part of my life in a way I didn't notice happening until it already had. She was the person I called when my car battery quit outside a grocery store. She was the person who sat with me in my truck for 2 hours when my dad and I had a fight and I didn't want to go home yet. I was the one she called when she had to make a job decision, or when her mom said something sharp, or when she needed someone to drive with no real destination. My sister once told us we needed to either date or stop acting like an old married couple in public. Lauren had laughed. I had laughed too. Laughing was safer than answering. Now we were in Charleston for her younger brother's engagement weekend, because Lauren said she needed one normal person beside her while her relatives asked questions and made everything a group activity. Apparently, I was the normal person, which showed how low the bar had dropped. The elevator opened on 8. Our room was at the end of the hall because of course it was. I unlocked the door, pushed it open, and immediately understood that the hotel had taken our awkward situation and decorated it. Warm light, soft white bedding, a little sitting area that did not actually include a couch, a window facing some pretty Charleston Street with trees and iron balconies. One king bed sitting in the middle of the room like it had been waiting for us personally. Lauren stepped in behind me and stopped. I pointed at the corner. Is that the chair? That is a chair. That is not a sleeping chair. That's a chair where someone sits to put on socks and feel regret. Lauren dropped her tote on the luggage bench. You're not sleeping in the chair. I didn't say I was. I was just judging our options. Our options are we act like adults. We do that sometimes? She gave me a look and started digging through her bag. I set my suitcase near the wall and tried not to stare at the bed, which became impossible because there was nothing else in the room large enough to look at. The air felt too quiet, the kind of quiet where every small movement sounded bigger than it was. Lauren pulled out her phone charger. I'm going to text my mom that we got in. Tell her the hotel has chosen chaos. She'll invite you to sleep at her rental house between my aunt and my grandmother. I love this room. Lauren smiled despite herself, and for a second things felt normal again. Then my phone buzzed. I thought it was my sister asking if we had landed, because she had already sent 3 messages making fun of me for going to an engagement weekend with my not-girlfriend. But it was an email from the hotel. Updated confirmation. I opened it without thinking. At first I only scanned the top. Dates, name, room type. Then I saw the line under reservation changes. Changed to 1 king bed. Requested by Lauren Lewis. My thumb stopped moving. The room seemed to get smaller in one breath. Lauren was still turned away from me, typing a message to her mom like nothing had happened. Her shoulders were relaxed, but not fully. I could see it now. The stillness, the carefulness. I read the line again even though I didn't need to. Requested by Lauren Lewis. I lowered my phone. Lauren. She looked over. What? I held up the screen. Her eyes landed on it, and the color shifted in her face just enough for me to know. Not a system error. Not a mix-up. Not the hotel. Her. I looked at my best friend, standing in the warm light of a room with 1 bed and nowhere to hide, and said, You changed it? Lauren didn't answer right away. That was worse than any answer she could have given me. She looked at the phone in my hand, then at the bed, then at the carpet between us like maybe the pattern down there had instructions for getting out of this. Lauren, I said again, quieter this time. Did you change the reservation? Her mouth opened a little. Nothing came out. That was when my stomach dropped. Because Lauren Lewis did not freeze. Lauren handled things. She argued with airline agents without raising her voice. She could make a mechanic explain a bill 3 different ways until it made sense. She once told my cousin he was being rude at Thanksgiving, and somehow my cousin apologized before dessert. But right then, in that hotel room, she looked scared. Yes, she said. I let out a breath that was almost a laugh, but not the good kind. Yes, I changed it. At the airport? She nodded. I looked back at the email like maybe it would become less real if I stared at it harder. So the clerk wasn't wrong. No, there was no system error. There probably was some kind of system involved, she said, then stopped herself. Sorry. Bad joke. Very bad joke. I know. I tossed my phone onto the little desk by the window. Not hard, but hard enough that it made a sound. Lauren flinched anyway, and that made me feel worse, even though I wasn't the one who had secretly changed our room into a relationship trap or whatever this was. What were you thinking? I asked. She folded her arms, then unfolded them right away, like she didn't want to look defensive. I was thinking you were going to leave. I wasn't going to leave. You joked about switching flights. I joke about a lot of things. I know, she said. That's the problem. I stared at her. She swallowed and looked away first. At the airport, when our second flight got delayed, you said maybe we should just skip the whole weekend and go home. You said it like a joke. and I laughed like it was a joke. But then I kept thinking about it. Lauren, I was tired. So was I. Then why would you make this harder? Because Easy keeps saving us. That stopped me. She took a breath, slow and shaky. Another room would have been easy. Another joke would have been easy. Another weekend where my family looks at us like they know something we won't say, and we roll our eyes, and then we go home and pretend none of it happened. Easy. I didn't answer. The room had gone too still. The air conditioner clicked softly under the window. Down in the street, someone laughed, and it sounded far away. Lauren looked at me again. I was tired of giving us easy exits. Write in the comments, was Lauren wrong to change the room behind my back? Or was she right that we needed to stop hiding behind easy exits? You could have just talked to me. Her face changed, not angry exactly, but hurt enough that I saw it. You could have just noticed. I almost said I had nothing to notice, but the lie was too obvious, even to me, because I had noticed. I noticed when she reached for my fries without asking because that was what we did. I noticed when I saved stories all day because I wanted to tell her first. I noticed when dates with other women felt like job interviews where I already knew I didn't want the position. I noticed when she wore my old gray hoodie at a bonfire last fall, and I had to look away because seeing her in it did something to my brain I didn't want to examine. I had noticed plenty. I had just called it friendship because that was safer. Lauren's voice got smaller. I didn't book one bed because I expected something to happen. I need you to know that. I looked at her. I'm serious, she said. I wasn't trying to force that. I wasn't trying to corner you into some big romantic scene. She pressed her fingers against her forehead for a second. I thought if there was nowhere to hide, maybe we would finally stop acting like this was all accidental. My anger had nowhere clean to go. Because yes, the method was insane. Absolutely insane. If my sister heard this story, she would hit both of us with a throw pillow for different reasons. But Lauren standing there, scared and honest and pretending not to shake, was not trying to win. She was trying not to lose whatever we had already been slowly turning into. I sat down on the edge of the bed, mostly because my legs felt strange. So what is this? I asked. A test? No. A confession? Maybe. She gave a tiny laugh with no humor in it. A really badly organized one. I looked at my hands. You scared me. I know. You made me feel like I was the last person in the room to understand what was happening. Her eyes dropped. I'm sorry. I believed her. That made everything more complicated. For a minute, neither of us spoke. The one chair in the corner sat there uselessly, just like I had predicted. My suitcase leaned against the wall. Lauren's tote had fallen over on the luggage bench, and one of her sandals was sticking out of it. Normal things. Normal room. Not a normal conversation. Finally I said, I stopped thinking of you as just my best friend a long time ago. Lauren went completely still. I looked up before I could lose my nerve. I don't know when exactly. It wasn't some movie moment. It just happened. And then it kept happening. And I didn't know what to do with it, so I did nothing. Her eyes got shiny, but she didn't cry. Lauren was stubborn like that. That is inconveniently mutual, she said. I laughed once under my breath, because of course that was how she would say it. She sat beside me, careful to leave space between us. Do you remember your sister's Christmas party? I remember your sweater had tiny snowmen on it. It was festive. It was aggressive. She bumped my knee lightly with hers, then pulled back like even that had new rules now. My aunt asked when we started dating, I said. Lauren nodded. You didn't correct her right away. I know. You just stood there. I almost answered. She turned to me. You did. Yeah. For 1 second, I almost said, not that long. Like an idiot. Then my brain came back and I said we were friends. Lauren looked down at her hands. I hated that I was disappointed. That sentence hit harder than I expected. She kept going. For me, it was when you had the flu. That awful one where you kept saying you were fine even though you sounded like a haunted vacuum. I was strong. You were sweaty and dramatic. That too. I brought groceries, she said. Soup, medicine, the ginger tea you hate but drink anyway. And I remember standing in your kitchen, putting things away, and I had this weird moment where I thought, I don't do this casually. Not like this. I remembered that week. I remembered waking up on the couch and seeing her washing a mug in my kitchen. I remembered feeling embarrassed by how much I wanted her to stay. I wanted you to stay, I said. I know. You knew. You asked me if the weather was supposed to get bad. I rubbed my face. That was my move? That was your move. We both laughed then, but softly, carefully, like the room could break if we got too loud. Then the laughter faded, and the truth stayed. I turned toward her. We stopped lying. She nodded. Okay. But we don't do anything tonight because of this room. Her shoulders lowered, like she had been holding up a weight I couldn't see. Good, she said. Good. Yes, good. I don't want our first real step to feel like pressure from hotel furniture. That chair could never pressure anyone. It's barely furniture. I smiled, and she smiled back, nervous and relieved and still Lauren. I shifted a little, leaving the same careful 6 inches between us. Not because I wanted distance. Because for once, I wanted us to choose what happened next without panic, without jokes doing all the work, without pretending we had accidentally built our whole lives around each other. Lauren looked at the space between us, then at me. So now what? She asked. I leaned back on my hands and stared at the ceiling. Now we survive one night like adults. We've never done that before. No, I said. But we've also never told the truth before. She didn't answer. She just sat there beside me on the edge of the bed 6 careful inches away. And for the first time in almost 7 years, neither of us tried to pretend it was nothing. Morning came in too bright and too normal for what had happened the night before. Nothing physical happened. No big dramatic mistake. No half-asleep accident. No weird movie scene where somebody rolled over and suddenly 7 years of friendship turned into something else. Lauren took the left side of the bed. I took the right. We built a border out of 2 extra pillows like 2 responsible adults with unresolved emotional history and a shared fear of making things worse. Neither of us slept much. At one point, around 3 in the morning, she whispered, "Are you awake?" I said, "No." She laughed into her pillow, and that small sound made the whole room feel less impossible. By morning, the pillow border was still there, but it didn't feel like a wall anymore. It felt like proof that we had both meant what we said. We were not pretending. We were also not rushing, which should have made breakfast easier. It did not. Lauren stood in front of the mirror by the bathroom, fixing one earring with a focus that looked fake. "You're being weird," I said. She looked at me through the mirror. "I am not being weird. You've put that same earring in 3 times. It has a difficult clasp. It's a hoop." She turned around. "You are also being weird. I'm acting completely normal. You brushed your teeth for 4 minutes. I care about dental health. You stared at the toothpaste like it had betrayed you." I picked up my room key from the desk. "Fine. We're both being weird." Lauren grabbed her purse. "We walk in, we eat breakfast, we behave normally." "Great. Nothing has to be announced." "Perfect. We do not owe anyone a report." "Absolutely." Then we both stood there for a second without moving. I said, "You go first." She narrowed her eyes. "Coward." But she opened the door. The hotel restaurant was already loud when we got downstairs. Lauren's family had taken over 2 long tables near the windows, because her family did not gather quietly. They spread. They claimed territory. They made servers nervous and tipped well afterward. Her younger brother, Tyler, was at the far end with his fiancée, Madison, both of them glowing in that freshly engaged way that made everyone else around them look underrested and emotionally behind. Lauren's mom waved us over. There they are. That was normal. Then 3 cousins turned to look at us at the same time. That was not normal. Lauren slowed down half a step, and because I knew her too well, I slowed with her. Big mistake. Moving together made us look even more suspicious. Her cousin Paige stopped mid-sentence with a fork halfway to her mouth. Tyler looked at us, looked away. then looked back with the expression of a man trying very hard not to smile. Lauren muttered, "Walk faster. I thought we were normal. We failed." We reached the table and Lauren's grandmother, who was tiny, sharp-eyed, and somehow more powerful than everyone else in the room combined, looked up from her coffee. She studied Lauren, then me, then Lauren again. "Oh, good," she said. "Somebody finally made a decision." The whole table went quiet for one perfect second. Lauren's face went red so fast I almost worried about her. "Grandma," she said. "What?" her grandmother asked. "I'm eating eggs. I didn't name names." Paige covered her mouth with a napkin. Tyler suddenly became very interested in his orange juice. I sat down beside Lauren because choosing a seat anywhere else would have looked like a confession, a denial, and a cry for help all at once. Lauren leaned toward me and whispered, "Do not enjoy this." "I'm not. You are. I'm enjoying your grandmother. Everyone enjoys my grandmother until she turns on them." Her grandmother pointed a piece of toast at me. "Andrew, you look tired." "I feel great." "No, you don't." Lauren stared into her coffee like she wanted to climb inside it. Her mom, to her credit, tried to help by asking about our flight. Unfortunately, Lauren and I both answered at the same time. "Delayed," I said. "Terrible," Lauren said. Then we both stopped. Paige made a tiny noise. Tyler's fiancé smiled down at her plate. Her grandmother sighed happily. Friendship is often the first excuse. Lauren shut her eyes. "Please let me eat one meal." "I am letting you eat," her grandmother said. "I am adding wisdom. You're adding chaos." "Same family." I laughed before I could stop myself. Lauren kicked me under the table. Not hard, just enough to remind me that whatever had changed between us, she could still communicate through a well-placed shoe. Breakfast became a strange kind of trial where no one asked the actual question, which somehow made the question louder. Her aunt asked if we had slept well. Tyler coughed into his napkin. Lauren said, "Fine," so sharply that her mom immediately changed the subject to centerpieces. I mostly drank coffee and tried not to look like a man who had confessed feelings on the edge of a hotel bed 6 hours earlier. The engagement brunch started late because one of Madison's uncles got lost walking from the parking lot, even though the restaurant was attached to the hotel. After that, everything became family motion. Photos near the windows, toasts, people hugging too long, Lauren adjusting Tyler's collar before pictures while pretending she wasn't emotional about her little brother getting married. I stood nearby, holding her purse because at some point it had been handed to me without discussion. That was one of the things I started noticing differently. We had always done that. She gave me her purse when she needed both hands. I saved her a seat. She ordered extra fries because she knew I would steal them. I carried the heavy bag. She remembered my mother's birthday. Before, those things had hidden inside friendship. Now they were standing in daylight. We didn't hold hands. We didn't make an announcement. But we also stopped doing that stiff little dance where we created space just because people were watching. When we stood beside each other for a group photo, her shoulder touched my arm, and neither of us moved away. Later, while Lauren was trapped in a conversation with two aunts, Paige found me near the coffee station. "So," she said. "No, I didn't ask anything. You were about to." She grinned. "This makes way more sense than the accountant." I blinked. "What accountant?" "Oh, she didn't tell you about him?" I looked across the room at Lauren. She saw Paige talking to me and immediately started trying to escape her aunts. Paige lowered her voice. "He wore loafers without socks and explained cryptocurrency to Grandma. That sounds difficult for everyone." Lauren looked bored for 6 straight weeks. "It was 6 weeks? Relax, Parker. You were still her emergency contact." That hit me in a place I was not prepared for. Lauren arrived then, slightly breathless. "Paige, stop." I was being supportive. You were being invasive. Family tradition. Paige walked away looking proud of herself. Lauren glanced at me. "Ignore her. The accountant? Barely counts. 6 weeks. Do you want to discuss your bartender phase?" I lifted one hand. "Fair. By late afternoon, the brunch had loosened into scattered conversations and people drifting toward the water behind the venue. I ended up outside by the dock, grateful for a few quiet minutes. The water moved softly against the posts. Behind me, through the open doors, I could still hear laughter and clinking glasses and Lauren's family being Lauren's family. But out there, the truth felt less loud. I heard footsteps on the wood behind me. Lauren came up beside me with her shoes in one hand, her hair moving a little in the breeze. She looked nervous again, but not like last night. This was softer, hopeful, maybe. For a moment, she just stood there with me, looking out at the water. Then she said, "Do you regret the bed strategy?" I looked at Lauren standing there with her shoes in one hand, asking if I regretted the bed strategy like she had used a coupon wrong, not rearranged the entire emotional shape of our lives. The dock was quiet behind the venue, except for the water tapping against the posts and the low sound of her family laughing inside. A few kids were running near the grass, and somebody's uncle was telling a story too loudly through the open doors. I rested my elbows on the railing. "No." Lauren's eyes moved to my face. "No, I don't regret it." She let out a breath, but she did not fully relax. I said, "It was wild. Let's be clear about that." She looked down and smiled a little. "Very clear. Possibly the worst hotel planning decision ever made by someone with a college degree. I accept that." "But no," I said. "I don't regret it." She stepped closer to the railing, not close enough to touch me yet. "Then what do you regret?" "That it took a fake system error for us to stop being ridiculous." That got her. She laughed and looked out over the water, and for a second she looked exactly like the Lauren I had known for almost 7 years. Same sharp face, same quick mouth, same person who had once taken grill tongs out of my hand and changed my life before either of us knew that was happening. Then the laugh faded, and she got serious again. "I still don't want our first kiss to be because of a hotel room," she said. My chest tightened, not in a bad way. More like my body had heard the words first and reacted before my brain caught up. I turned toward her. "Are you sure?" "Yes. Because we can wait." "I know. We waited this long. We're clearly professionals." That made her smile, but her voice stayed soft. "I want it to happen because we choose it. Not because the furniture got dramatic. Not because my grandmother made eye contact across a breakfast table like she was reading a court verdict. Not because everyone has been staring at us all weekend. Your grandmother is terrifying. She would enjoy hearing that. She already knows." Lauren laughed again, then looked at me like the laugh had opened the door and now she had to decide whether to walk through it. I held out my hand. She looked down at it. For 1 second, neither of us moved. It was strange, because I had held Lauren's hand before. Once, when we crossed a busy street downtown and she grabbed me by the wrist like I was a distracted child. Once, when her cousin's toddler fell asleep in her lap and she needed help standing up without waking him. Once, years ago, when she slipped on wet grass at a cookout and nearly pulled me down with her. But this was different because nothing about it had an excuse. She put her hand in mine. Her fingers were cool from holding her shoes. Mine closed around them like I had been trying not to do that for years. I said, "Then choose it." Lauren stared at me for half a second, and I could see the last bit of fear pass across her face. Not fear of me, fear of the step. Fear of how much our friendship had to change in order to become what it already was. Then she stepped closer. No audience leaned out the doors. No music swelled. No perfect sunset appeared just to make us look better. It was just us by the water, with her shoes dangling from one hand and my heart acting like it had never done its job before. She kissed me. It was quiet, warm, careful at first, like we were both checking that the world did not fall apart when our mouths met. Didn't. The world stayed exactly where it was. That was somehow the best part. When she pulled back, she kept her forehead near mine for a second, and we both laughed under our breath, because there was no other way to handle the fact that something so new felt so late. "That was annoying," she said. I smiled. "Good annoying or bad annoying?" "Annoying because we could have done that months ago." "Only months." She gave me a look. Don't get arrogant. I'm trying to process. You look pleased with yourself. I am pleased with us. That softened her. She looked down at our hands, still joined between us. Us. Yeah, I said. That word is going to be a problem. It's already been a problem. True. We stayed out there until her mom called for pictures again, and this time when we walked back, Lauren did not drop my hand right away. She did before we got inside, but not like she was hiding. More like we were keeping one small piece just for ourselves before her family noticed and turned it into a group discussion. Of course, her grandmother noticed anyway. From across the room, she lifted her coffee cup at me like a woman who had placed a bet and won. I pretended not to see it. Lauren saw it. Do not encourage her. I'm not even breathing near her. Good. The rest of the weekend moved fast after that. There were more photos, more hugs, more stories about Tyler as a kid that made him beg everyone to stop talking. Lauren and I stayed close without making a show of it. Sometimes her arm brushed mine. Sometimes we shared a look when somebody said something ridiculous. Once, while Madison opened gifts, Lauren leaned her shoulder against me for 3 seconds, and I felt calmer than I had all weekend. Sunday morning, we packed the room in silence, but it was not the same silence from the lobby or the elevator. This one felt easy. The bed was still there, huge and neatly made after housekeeping had come through. The useless chair was still in the corner, looking like it had contributed nothing and judged everything. Pointed at it. I think the chair deserves no credit. Lauren zipped her bag. The chair knows what it did. It did nothing. Exactly. It stayed out of our business. I picked up my suitcase. Next time we need a romantic breakthrough, we are not involving hotel logistics. Absolutely not. We'll use a normal method. Like talking. I made a face. Let's not get extreme. She laughed and walked past me, then stopped in the doorway and looked back. For a second, I saw the old version of us and the new one standing in the same place. Best friends. Something more. Not separate things exactly. More like one had finally admitted it had been becoming the other for a long time. On the drive home, Lauren fell asleep for the first hour with her head turned toward the window. I kept both hands on the wheel until she woke up somewhere outside Columbia, yawned, and reached across the center console without looking. Her hand found mine. I held it. No joke. No comment. No big speech. It felt familiar, like we had been doing it emotionally for years and had only just let our hands catch up. After a while, she said, "We should never tell people the real version of this." I glanced over. Your whole family already knows the emotional version. They do not need the hotel version. My sister will. Your sister will weaponize it. She weaponizes everything. Lauren smiled. Then we give her a fake version. What? Like we had a mature conversation after years of honest self-awareness. That sounds believable. It sounds like two people we are not. She squeezed my hand. Fair. 2 weeks later, we took our first actual trip as a couple. Same city, different hotel. It was not for an engagement weekend or a family event or any excuse we could hide behind. Just 2 nights in Charleston because we wanted to go back and do it without delays, without relatives, without one of us secretly turning a reservation into an emotional trapdoor. The clerk at the front desk smiled at us as she pulled up the booking. "Room preference?" she asked. "2 queens or 1 king?" Lauren looked at me, not too calm this time, not performing, not hiding a plan, just smiling. Then she turned back to the clerk and said, "1 king."